Good afternoon, Kairos community. It's your girl, Dr. K, Managing School Director at Kairos Academies, and I'm super excited to have our next teacher talk with the phenomenal Li Mellon. Li is not only our history teacher for 8th grade, he's also our GTL, so let's welcome him to the platform. Teacher Talks is a wonderful opportunity for us to share some of our instructors, some of the work that they're doing to our broader community. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Li Mellon. Li, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself as an instructor, what you teach, and why Kairos?
Yeah, so this is my third year of teaching. It's my third year at Kairos as well. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was brought to St. Louis through Teach for America. Kairos was my placement school in 2020, which was a bit of a crazy year to get into education amidst the pandemic and hybrid models. But I would say that Kairos's approach to hybrid schooling was actually a really great way for me to get started in the classroom because it was smaller classes as I was learning classroom management, and Summit, having Summit already be perfect for virtual learning and asynchronous learning, like really allowed me to grow as a teacher and to kind of find my stride here. So I've stayed at Kairos past my 2-year commitment just because it's been able to give me so many opportunities to grow as a teacher and a leader, and because there are so many awesome opportunities for our students as well, and that we can really see them succeed every day.
Wonderful. Well, I didn't know you were a TFA alum, so I think we share that in common. I actually started TFA in Atlanta, so I'm really glad that that love for education found our way, both landing here at Kairos. You also are a GTL, which is Grade Team Leader. Tell our parents and our other stakeholders, what does that mean to you and your role here? What do you actually do in that capacity?
Yeah, so I would say like a very unique perspective in that I've been here for the past few years. So when our kids that are in 8th grade now started at Kairos, that was my first year as well. So I got to see them grow up over the past couple of years, develop some really awesome relationships with them, and then from that, I've been able to leverage those relationships and that mutual trust that we have. So whether it's behavior or academics, like I really drive the 8th grade team and help drive the culture for the 8th grade about what our academic and behavioral expectations should be. And that also looks like planning incentives for our kids. We've taken the 8th grade on a couple field trips this year that they were able to earn based on their academic performance and their behavioral performance this year, which has been really awesome to reward them and give them that sense of pride as well. And I would think overall, like I see my role as kind of the glue guy of the 8th grade, like whatever capacity I'm needed to be in, whatever the kids need, if something's not making sense right now, that I can pick up the slack there and provide that just in time solution to make sure that things continue to run smoothly.
Fantastic. Your presence is felt and seen in all capacities. I know that you also help out with the basketball team. I got to be the keep the score, so it was great that I got to fill in that role. And even when you were mentioning about incentives, I know that we have a Pie the Teacher incentive coming up soon that you are actually helping coordinate for the middle school. One thing that we definitely want to be the crux of this conversation is instruction. What is happening in the classroom? I know there are two great projects that you recently have been doing with our scholars that I want you to share with us today. The first one is about your art industrialization project. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so this was recommended to me by Miss Miranda Burke, who taught 8th grade history last year. As we were talking about the unit industrialization, I know that, for kids, learning about how America, started having businesses and industries might not always be the most interesting thing. And she said, well, actually, this is one of my favorite units to teach because of this activity that gets them really frustrated. I said, tell me more about that. And it was a really great activity because for kids who aren't necessarily always hitting the books, or they don't love to read, and sometimes academics stress them out, gave them another outlet to engage them with the material and to walk away having learned something. So students actually were given a blank sheet of paper. We say it was a 2-day activity where we started off in 1700 in Maryland. And then over time, there were different historical developments that came along. For example, adding factories or adding more houses, needing apartment buildings because immigrants were coming over. And the task was that students had to incorporate that into their town and city, all within that one page. They couldn't have extra paper. They couldn't turn it over. They couldn't start over. They had to figure out how to make it work. And so the idea behind that was, how did all of these different cities like St. Louis or like other cities in America or around the world figure out what happens when industrialization occurs, and what were the massive changes that took place before versus after?
Oh, wonderful. In your classroom, one thing that I enjoy is scholar work. Do you have any examples that you can show us on all of that real estate? So thinking about like a piece of paper, how did they cram all of that onto that 8 by 10 or 8 by 11 piece of paper?
Yeah, so there's actually we had a ton of different variations. I have one with me now where a student actually made his to look exactly like the city of St. Louis. So he labeled the streets like there's Broadway, there's like Fifth Street, Seventh Street, Ninth Street. He actually was very intentional and spent time outside of class trying to perfect that and make sure that it aligned to the Mississippi River and kind of all of St. Louis's geographical features. But I also have all of the student work hanging up in my room just so the kids have had a great time coming to check out each other's work and provide
Mhm.
feedback on, oh, you did this a little bit differently than I did, and it sparked a lot of awesome conversations. But I would say it's been really cool to see how kids went from that process of productive struggle and frustration in the moment to afterwards being able to look at the finished product and say, like, hey, this is actually really cool, and this is really cool to see the differences between this and to start a conversation around that.
I love that. And especially since we're a project-based learning school, to be able, like you said, to see over time how that evolved and to be able to see other scholars work. I think that that was a very collaborative and just eye-opening experience. And it shows the learning on the walls, which we really appreciate. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was we are a culturally inclusive environment, and this is Black History Month. And I know you had a Black History project that your scholars were working on. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so being American history, we've talked a lot about the experience on Black Americans and how different things have impacted that. That's one thing that I've tried to be very intentional surrounding is that often American history focuses just on white people, or that the only history that we talk about is slavery. So what we are doing this cycle is we're focusing on cases of police brutality in the United States because that's been an ongoing issue that has ties back to slavery, back to even 1619 when the first slaves were brought over to the United States. And so we started off by engaging with a few different interactives and pieces of artwork that kind of highlight that issue and bring more awareness to it, mostly through the use of emotions. And the kids had a very meaningful time engaging with those and really learning about different cases that they might not have heard about. For example, I had a few students who on their own started Googling about the different cases. They found that there was a 7-year-old girl who was killed. And they said, she was only 7? What's up with that? And then so they immediately unprompted looked it up, which is awesome to see. And so with this project, they are choosing a name of a victim of police brutality in the United States that they are then going to choose the medium, whether it be a poster, a slideshow, a speech, a TikTok, to raise awareness around that and share that information with others. Because one thing that we've learned in history is that the history that's shared impacts the way that people view things. So if we ignore problems that are going on that are essential to the issues in our country and have ties back throughout the past couple, 200, 300, 400 years,
Mhm.
that history can be erased if we aren't intentional about sharing that. And so they've actually really taken to that. I've gotten emails at like 11 o'clock at night where they sharing their presentations with me because
They're
they're just
engaged.
working on that on their own. Yeah.
I love that. And what you're saying really cements our holistic approach to learning and the child and how we're trying to create good citizens of the world, right? And so that looks and feels like a lot of different things. And it's not a straight and narrow path, but it holistically approaches all the different topics that they are faced with on a daily basis. All right. The last part that I want to talk about today, so you can bring us home, is our platform summit. This is where we have all of our curriculum. You being an educator, how do you like the platform? How do you use it? And how do you leverage that? The fact that kids have access to it at all points in time to really be able to drive across strong history instruction.
Yeah, so I would say the thing that is really nice about Summit is we're starting with the building blocks at the very minimum. Summit, I'm not going in with nothing. That gives me ideas, activities, final products that then I have the freedom to tweak and make fit for our individual students and our individual needs at our school. And then aligned with that, it's kind of a hybrid between that and Google Drive. So as students are working on things, I can see on my end them in real time and provide them with feedback. And that constant cycle of feedback, I think, is something that makes Kairos and other Summit schools so unique, so that students can see, oh, here's my first iteration of something. I don't need it to be perfect when I turn it in because I can get feedback from my teacher. That work in progress is one of the most important things that we can teach kids. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time. If it's
Mhm.
not good the first time, progress is a process. We have to keep working and keeping on with that. And I would say that the Summit platform that allows students to be able to work through things at their own pace really allows all of our students, those students who might be on the lower end of the spectrum and need more support, or those students who get all their work done, in the first 20 minutes of class, they have that ability. So for example, I have a handful of kids who consistently I saw in class were getting greens on their checkpoints on their projects and were done early. So I was able to look through Summit's curriculum, which is all of the courses that they offer across all of their Summit schools,
Mm.
and find a course that I could assign to them to work on their own as kind of a challenge, which allows them, something else that's engaging and challenging for them, and also allows me to work through that with them without having to spend all of my time planning an entire new course.
I love that. What it sounds like you're describing is equity for scholars. You meet the scholars exactly where they are and at the pace that they're ready to kind of go at. So whether it be faster, slower, or just right for them, it really seems like the platform allows you to be able to go at their pace. My last question to you before we wrap it up is, what is something that you want to share with our parents or our outside stakeholders that we haven't discussed in our talk thus far that you feel like it's either helpful to know about Summit, about the classroom, about Kairos, or just any kind of closing remarks or words for everyone?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out like any of our parents who are just actively involved in their students' academic life. Just as we kind of see ourselves as their parents while they're at school. We know that they work hard when they go home too to make sure to support their kids as well. So it really makes all the difference when if I send an email home or a parent reaches out to me asking about their student's progress, just to know that we're tag teaming this, that it's not the work doesn't stop when they go home. And I would say that even just asking your student, hey, can I see your Summit? Can I see like what's going on with your grades when they get home even once a week? Helps to keep them accountable while they're at home with their parents as well as when they're at school with us. And I would say that is so important, especially as we look into the tail end of this year and we're preparing for exciting things like 8th grade promotion week, and all the exciting things that come along with making sure our students are ready for high school and sending them to all the awesome places that they're going to go. That I see every day in the classroom the amazing potential and the level of achievement that our students have. And so I love to see that cemented through their work and the completion of that. And so that we're not, at the end of the year having to struggle and make sure that everybody's getting the requirements that they need, that we're there early and that we're celebrating and we have that
Mhm.
time to celebrate student success and really celebrate all the awesome things that they're doing.
I love that. And that is a great place for us to end. We believe that our parents are our partners. We have wonderful educators like you, Lee, that have been dedicated and do the hard work. We can't say enough how much we appreciate you. We hope that other people continue to send their scholars here at Kairos, and stay tuned for more teacher talks. Until then, bye.